Selamat Starba. Hello everybody. Welcome to our regular session. Today Pamela is going to talk about feedback as a tool for learning or as an assessment for learning tool. Welcome Pamela.
Hello, everybody, and Ramadan Mubarak, Ramadan Kareem for everybody too. I know this is starting. If anybody is celebrating, just wanted to say that. And here we go. Okay, so feedback. I gave this one a while ago, I believe. Maybe it was in Jalalabad. It might have been that long ago, but it's good even if you've seen it, even if it was more recent, to have reminders. I know it was good for me to always take the same professional development workshops again and again, because it's good to have the reminder, and then sometimes you don't get everything the first time. So if it is a repeat, then that's fine too. So giving effective feedback. So when do we want to give feedback? What kind? Let's talk a little bit about that. So when, what, how, and who. These are basically and of course, why, that's the most important one. So these are our WHs of feedback. So we're going to talk about errors versus mistakes, speaking and writing, and individual and group feedback. So who gives the feedback? So I've mentioned this a few times in other workshops, that the first thing you want to do is ask the student if they made a mistake or if something is correct. So you first offer self-correction. So we want to avoid, if the student makes a mistake, you just immediately tell them the right answer. There's a few steps you go through first before that, because you want them to really think, and you want to see if they know it and just forgot, or if they can figure it out on their own, if they can use process of elimination. So the first step is always just pointing to the fact that they did not say something correctly. So that's the first one. So there's a couple ways to do that. You can go, actually, I think that's there. Yeah. So that's the first one. And then peer correction. So if you've pointed it out to the student, you've done all the prompts to try to see if they understand what the mistake was and how to correct it. They don't understand that, then you ask other students first. So again, you're not going to, as the teacher, immediately correct. You want to see, now, is this a learning opportunity for the other students? Can they show that they understand what the correct response would be or usage? Then if everybody really doesn't know, if they all forgot, then you can give the correct answer. But you want to make sure that you are giving them the full opportunity to think about it and give that right answer on their own. So for example, let's give this sample for speaking. So if the individual said something, the first thing you want to do is indicate that a correction is needed. So you don't give them the right answer, you just indicate something is not correct. So if they say, "I from Kyrgyzstan," you can say, to indicate that something was incorrect, "I from Kyrgyzstan," or "I from Kyrgyzstan." That's better. Put the emphasis on where the mistake was. "I from Kyrgyzstan." Then if you just repeat it and ask it in that way, that's indicating that there is a mistake, right? You can also just ask them to repeat it. Go, "Repeat." If they still say it the wrong way, then you can repeat it for them. If they don't understand that you're indicating that they said something incorrect, then you can ask, is this correct? And sometimes they will say, oh, I am from Kyrgyzstan, or I'm from Kyrgyzstan. And then they've self-corrected. So that's what we want. That's the first thing that we want, right? If they still don't know, they're like, yes, I'm from Kyrgyzstan. I'm from Kyrgyzstan. Remember that you have allowed for wait time too. You want to give plenty of time. It can be uncomfortable to wait, but you want them to think about what is correct. You want them to come to it with their own from themselves, with their own thinking process, rather than just giving it to them or asking another student. Allow for wait time. Then if they still haven't got it at that point, ask another if a student in class can help. Can somebody help? So make sure also we are being very positive. We want to be positive, encouraging, and relaxed in our feedback. We don't want to make them feel afraid. So if you are feeling very nervous and afraid and not relaxed, then you don't feel good about making, trying different things in class, taking risks and saying something. And also it kind of shuts the brain down in a way where now you are just nervous. You're not thinking about what kind of mistake you made. So make sure it's very positive. It's not a big deal. We are all here to learn. You make a mistake, that's fine. You go on. Somebody helps you, you go on. So the way that I ask this question is not who knows the right answer or who can correct him. I said, can somebody help? So now it's more positive. It's like we are helping each other. We're all learning together. I'm guiding, but you guys know a lot. You students, everybody knows a lot, and you are just helping each other learn and helping each other remember what you have already learned. So say, can somebody help him or her? At this point, you want to also maybe call on somebody who is not the one that always has the right answer. So this is something that I like to focus on is the ones that are kind of, you don't want to call on somebody who is very weak and isn't confident and doesn't have the right answer, but somebody who sometimes does, sometimes doesn't. You don't want to always call on your star student who has it correct, right? So if somebody who is not always correct, but they're one of the more intermediate students, has their hand up, and you say, can someone help? And then you say, call on them, and they say, I am from Kyrgyzstan. And then you can ask the rest of the class, is this correct? Thank you for helping. And then you have the original student repeat it, and then maybe the whole class drills. So then you can drill, and then you can also put it on the board. If it was just speaking, you can also have a student, maybe you have the one that you called on that corrected them in speaking, come to the board and say, can you describe the rule? And then I am from Kyrgyzstan, and then somebody else, they can write it on the board, and then maybe somebody else can break down the rule: subject, to be, and then from Kyrgyzstan. And then you can have, whatever that description, it could be noun, it could be verb, it could be adjective, and then concept check and ask for examples. So what are the other things that we need to be? I am tall. I am smart. I am, you can also say Kyrgyzstani or Kyrgyz, whichever one that you like to choose to refer to yourself as being from Kyrgyzstan. So yeah, make sure that you concept check and ask for examples. So this is if we have some errors that the student has really forgotten what the rule was and they were really not solid. We'll talk a little bit about error mistake a little bit later. So as a group, you can also give feedback by having them chant. So if you are having people who are making a mistake, one person in pronunciation or grammar or something like that, you can have everybody drill and practice together. So while the student that made the mistake is practicing, they don't feel self-conscious because everybody else is talking at the same time. So for example, a word like effective, maybe they had the pronunciation wrong. Maybe they said effective or effective or something. And then if you say, okay, everybody, let's look at this, and you put it on the board and you have the pronunciation dots, maybe, I'm not sure if I've gone over that yet. Or like break up the syllables so you know where the syllable stress is, and you go effective, and then the whole class goes effective, and then you say again effective, and then the whole class says effective. Then you get to go say, okay, call on the original student, say, can you say it again? Effective. Now he's had a chance, or she has had a chance to say it a couple times without feeling self-conscious. So you don't want to have one student who has made a pronunciation mistake or a grammar mistake. You don't want to make them drill it by themselves after they've, it. And I've had this happen to me too in classes or with the tutor, and I say something wrong and they just make me say it again and again, and they still say, no, it's not correct. It's not correct. And I just get frustrated, right? And then I just want to either move on or not take the class anymore. But if you have everybody in the group do it, and they can do it as loud as possible, if after that drilling they still haven't gotten it completely correct, that's okay also to just move on for the day. You don't want to overdo it. Take notes of repeated mistakes to review as a group after. Yes. So if this is if you are having if you have students that are either doing work, they're doing work like in pairs or in threes or in small groups, and you are monitoring and you are hearing some mistakes, some pronunciation, grammar, and you want to give feedback to everyone. So you can take notes over what the most common ones are. So you can kind of just walk around, take a note. Again, we don't want to look at everything. We don't want to correct every single. It's kind of impossible anyway to do that. But take some notes of repeated ones that a lot of people have in common, and like the most important. And then after you reconvene as a group, say, okay, is this correct? So what you want to do too there is to start out with the incorrect thing. You can write it on the board, and then you say, is this correct? And do the same kind of thing. Have somebody in the classroom, try not to pick on the star all the time, but someone in the classroom can say, no, this is not correct, and this is what is correct. And same thing, try to get the people to say it before you give the full answer and the full rule. Sometimes once they get the answer too of what is not correct, they can break down the rule as well. So they can break down, oh yeah, that's right. So what is this? This is the subject, this is the verb to be, and then this is whatever follows, the adjective, the preposition, or the noun or verb. You can also, when students are having a discussion, a debate, if you are doing open classwork as a big group, and there are some mistakes being made, you don't want to necessarily give that, if you don't want to necessarily give that in the moment, but you're working like on a fluency exercise, take notes then as well. And then after you've had that time for the people with the discussion where everybody is hearing, then you can do the same thing. Say, is this correct? No. If they say yes, then you, of course, have to give the answer. But if they say no, then again, figuring out on their own how to do that. So L1 interference, how can this be part of what they make mistakes and errors with? So this is how your first language will affect languages you learn. So for example, not having the we just mentioned I from Kyrgyzstan, you don't have the verb to be in the present tense, so they might drop that. There's also some words that are in Russian that they sound like a word in English, but they're not the same word. They don't really mean the same thing. So those are called false friends. So be careful about that. And also what you can do about it is, especially you as teachers, as educated in both languages, you're very familiar with that. And you can, just be aware that those kinds of things will come up. Pay a little bit of extra attention. I've always, when I knew the language of the students I was teaching, it was always something that I was paying a little bit more attention to be aware and let them know, hey, English is different than Kyrgyz and Russian. It's going to have different meanings for maybe the word that sounds the same. It will have different grammar. And this is another reason why we want to get away from translation as much as possible, because if you do a direct translation with grammar, it might not work so well, because, like, for example, in Kyrgyz, you put the verb at the end of the sentence, and in English, you put it in the middle or the beginning, or so that's just something to think about also when giving your feedback and when prepping your classes. Okay, so another thing to give feedback on is the other productive skill is writing. So how do we give feedback on writing projects? It kind of follows the same thing that we were talking about with speaking, because it's productive. So you're looking at what the student has put out and then asking that student to self-correct, invite them to self-correct. So if this is on the board, this is very easy to do. All you do is, circle or point to something. You don't want to make big X's over it, but just indicate that there was a mistake made in the writing, and usually the student again will be able to correct it. A lot of times, if you are giving things that are the right level, if you have introduced the right kind of, the things at like a good point, at a good pace, they should have enough information and enough knowledge of what you're giving them to be able to make those corrections when pointed out to them. So if it's something completely new, you can't really expect them to correct it, right? If it's something that, of course, people just forget sometimes. So that's why we have the other students help. But most of the time, I would say more than 90% of the time, all you have to do is indicate there was a mistake made and they know how to fix it. So circle it, underline, point to it, just ask the class. So this is often, we have students write sentences that they wrote from their homework. We have them write that on the board the next day as part of correcting homework as a class, or
Internet байланышы өчүп калды окшойт. Азыр кайра чыгабыз. Pamela,
Hi.
I think
Okay. I just saw I
yeah,
just saw the
internet, yeah.
notification on my phone. Okay, everything is okay now?
Yeah, yes. You can share your screen.
Which slide was I on?
It was writing after
Okay.
writing.
This one? Oh, I got to show you. Let me see. Was it this screen?
Is it writing? I can't see it.
Yeah, I said click I'll show you. Like this that we are talking,
Of the student.
or was it this one?
I think next one.
The next one? This one? Okay.
Yes.
So what did you hear? When did I disappear?
Indicate the student incorrect language point.
Okay. And then have students peer correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. Am I in the group? Is everybody there?
Yes.
Okay. So everybody's sorry, I don't know what happened. Okay. So yes, so you want to the same kind of process as with speaking. You want to indicate that there was a language point that was incorrect, and then invite the students to correct it. So if this is on the board, then the students have written the sentences on the board, like maybe a homework exercise where they have sentences that they have to write or answers to an exercise in the book, or if it's in class, an in-class exercise. Maybe they are doing something and then part of that is to do group feedback together. So once they write it on the board, same thing. You can invite the students to self-correct, invite the rest of the class to help. And then if that fails, then the teacher corrects. But the first one you want to correct is the student who wrote it Then you ask if other students can help, and then the teacher corrects. So that's for on the board. If you have a writing assignment where you are actually having them write out kind of longer, like a paragraph or something that, like, if this is usually for more advanced students, that you'll have this kind of thing that you'll get graded on. So you have them write a paragraph, write an essay, and you have to correct it. You have to look through it. What you want to do is first invite them to self-correct by just circling the mistakes. You can use correction codes, which is like, if they used the wrong word, WW. If it was spelling, you can say SP. If it was grammar, you circle the word or the part that is problem and you put GR. If you do this, then let them know what those things mean so that they can look at it and then understand. You can do that, or you can just circle it and then see if they understand where the mistake was made. Again, we want to expect that it is something appropriate for their level. If you're expecting too much, too high of a level, then of course, if it's something they haven't been taught yet, they're not expected to know, then it's not really fair to give them feedback on that or expect, that it's flawless. So you give that to the student, and then you see if they understand all of those, what was incorrectly done there. If they don't understand everything that's wrong, then they can give it to another student and have them look at it. So you can actually turn this into a group or pair work project also. So students can give each other their papers, or make sure that, this is kind of a little bit more time consuming to do this, but make sure that the student that is looking at another student's paper is a stronger English speaker. So that figuring out what the levels are can be a little confusing, but you can still do it. You want to make sure that somebody who is a little bit stronger in English is looking at somebody else's paper so they can give those corrections. Have them correct it. If at the end they've written it out again and there are still some of those mistakes they don't understand, then you can kind of you can give that correction. So it's the same process as with speaking, as with writing on the board. You have the student draw their attention to that they have made a mistake, see if they can correct it, see if they can give you the rule. If they can't do that, have another student do that, see if they can give the rule as well. If they can't do that, then it's time for a review of the lesson. Or, if nobody in the whole class understands something they really should, then yeah, maybe you need a review of a lesson, or you need to question, the way I teach that maybe isn't working so well. So part of our job as teachers also is to keep learning, and to be reflective of when things are going great and when they're going not so great. So that's a good indication. So this is, feedback for us as well. Feedback for the students is always feedback for us. What are they mastering? What do they never have questions about? What are they really doing good at? You're doing fine explaining that. The things that are more confusing, or that most or all are getting wrong, that's stuff that you need to reflect on. Maybe we need to spend more time on this. Maybe I need to be a little bit more clear. Maybe I need to concept check a little bit. I know I presented it, but did I give them enough time to, did I check that they really understood it? Did I ask them for examples? Sometimes in the example, process, that's when it's revealed that, oh, they don't really get that. They're giving the examples the wrong way. Which is why we don't want to ask the question, do you understand? right? When we're concept checking, we want to ask for examples. We don't just want to say, do you understand? Because there's a couple reasons why they might say yes and they don't really understand. Maybe they don't want to admit they don't understand. Maybe they just want to move on to the next thing. Or maybe they think they understand, but they have got the wrong idea. So it's never trust anybody who says, yes, I understand. You have to say, how does this work? Give me an example. Can you tell me something else using I am? Right? For the I from Kyrgyzstan, I am from Kyrgyzstan. Or maybe ask, where, can you tell me about your father? My father from Bishkek. Now we know they don't understand that you have to put the to be. Or my father M from Bishkek. Oh, my father. And then you can ask the other students. So we want the feedback to be timely. We want to make sure that it's close enough to when the mistakes were made that they can link it to when they made the mistake. So we don't want them to forget what they were saying. So don't do it the next day or the next time. Don't say, oh, I'll give some feedback like next, when we meet on Monday, we ran out of time today. You want to make sure that it is close enough to when they made the mistake that they understand how it applies to what they said. You want it to be relevant. So remember, we talk about that a lot in our SMART goals, both relevant and specific. So make sure that it's not something that they haven't, again, it hasn't been introduced to them. The feedback has to be really to what they are saying in the moment. Specific. So you want to also, when you are giving general feedback, this is funny to say, but when you're getting general feedback, please make it specific. So for example, at the end of class, if you want to tell a student, you did good, or your English is getting better, that's very general. So you're talking about their performance, but you want to say something about their performance. So you want to say, your pronunciation is really improving, or your understanding of this grammar point is so much stronger than last week, or I really like that your fluency is, you are building so much more vocabulary, you can express yourself. Or even just it could be about being a student. Thank you so much for participating. I know that it's sometimes scary to participate, but it's really wonderful. Anything you want to see more of. If you praise something, they will say, oh, the teacher recognizes that I'm doing something good. Always make it encouraging. That brings us to the PIP. PIP, positive, improvement, positive. So this is more like on a project, something that you're going to need to give kind of more specific feedback on. So like a paper that they're doing, or like kind of a project or a presentation or something. You want to have people feel good about what they've done, but also give some kind of something that needs to improve. So you can start with, thank you so much with the research that you've done. This is really interesting. It's something new that I haven't heard about before or read about. I would like you to pay attention to your tenses when you are writing, because the past and the present is getting a little confused sometimes. But end with another positive. I'm glad that you are so enthusiastic about this topic and you are writing so much. The more you write, the more I can give feedback on. So thank you so much. So that's what that looks like. So you want to make sure that you put those positives in there so that they feel good about making those improvements. And then, end with, if you make those improvements, this is going to be a really excellent paper or project or whatever. You can have the students practice it as well. So if you give, I've done this is really good with like older students too. I've done this at universities. You have them give like an oral presentation or a presentation with visuals and some writing, and then ask for some feedback from the class. Say, do we have some, start out with some positives? Can we have 3 people maybe mention some positive, what they liked? And then say, did we notice something that we can help her improve next time? And then have some students say some of those things, and make sure you set the model of being very, very encouraging and, not make the improvements framed where you know that you are trying to help. And then again, okay, and then let's talk a little bit more about the positives. What else did we like? What are we excited about to see it next time? That kind of thing. Or what did you learn something new from this? How are you going to take this information and use it yourself? That kind of thing. You can engage the students in. They have to be a high level of language, and you have to be working on kind of a substantial project, but that's a great way to introduce the students to participating in feedback in that way. Okay, so when do we not give feedback? Again, I've mentioned if the material hasn't been taught. So if you have not covered past tense irregular verbs in your class, and you give a paper something to talk about, some paragraph that you give as an assignment, and they're using them incorrectly, then you don't give feedback on that, because it's not something that you expected to begin with. That will come as instruction later. They will get it later, and it will come as instruction. But even if you do put the correct answer on the paper, they won't know how to use it next time. They won't know what the rule is. They won't know, and they might think that, oh, every, maybe I was wrong, every verb is like this now. They won't know really the difference between regular and irregular. If it's not the aim of the lesson. So if you're doing something that you have kind of already taught, but it's not really the purpose, then it's maybe better not to give feedback on that. So for example, if you are giving a speaking lesson and you're just practicing your speaking skills, and there's a little bit of writing, but there's like punctuation problems or something. If the whole point is about speaking and fluency, just kind of focus on that. You don't want to go too far out of what they're being taught in the moment. Definitely avoid interrupting the student. So you want to make sure that the feedback is timely. So wait until they finish speaking, but don't interrupt them to correct. That can be very frustrating, and also they won't register. It won't register because they're not listening to what you are saying in correcting them. They're worried about thinking about what to say next. So by interrupting them and correcting in the moment, you're kind of that's getting in the way of the fluency practice. And also they're not going to be really processing that. So if the student is saying, I from Kyrgyzstan, my name, blah, blah, whatever, take notes on what was going on and then come back to it and go, I from Kyrgyzstan, right? So careful not to interrupt them. If students stop speaking and are trying to find a word, how can we help? So if you know kind of what the next word should be, start just with the first letter of the word. So, for example, I have 2 brothers and one they're stopping, and you know it's sister. You don't just want to say sister, right? You say one. Just make the sound of the first letter, and then maybe this will be enough. Oh, yes, sister, you know, because again, maybe they are nervous. Maybe there's something they really know and they're just nervous talking in front of the class. Or maybe they really did forgot, but they're learning so many new words and they're really trying, but they just need that little extra help. If they still don't get with the s, then try the si, just try the first syllable. Try until until maybe you go sis. If they still don't get it, then you can open it up to the rest of the class. But try to give as many opportunities for them to come up with the correct answer as possible. That's basically the gist of feedback. Is, I've said before, who teaches best teaches less. So the less that you interact and interfere with the student's natural process of speaking, of writing, of communicating, of listening and hearing, and you can repeat and be slow, all of that. Try to interfere as little as possible with this. I know it's hard sometimes because you do know the answer and you want them to succeed, so you want to give the answer, but it's going to help them succeed so much more if you let them do most of the work. You ask them to do most of the work. So we want to focus on very simple, direct, small goals within the lesson, but doing those things well and giving the students the time to work through them. And you'll find that if you really simplify things, make it smaller, but really a strong basis, a strong foundation, they will progress faster than if you are giving too much over too short of time. So let's, again, sorry that we had that break in between. If there are any questions in general or, regarding any of that break, okay, hello, Ramadan Kareem. Hello. And good morning, good evening. What if not to correct them at all during the lesson? Those should correct when really lack of understanding. So no, you should correct them during the lesson, but not in the middle of an activity, not in the middle of a sentence, not in the middle of where they are expressing themselves. So that student who is saying, "I'm from Kyrgyzstan," you don't want to interrupt him. You want to let him speak. But keeping it timely, you want to address that after he is done speaking. So everybody remembers, it's connected to what has been said. Because if you wait till the end of the lesson, there's been a lot of different things said. And then also you need that time to drill and to review afterwards. And the difference between error and mistake. Yes, I didn't go over that. The lack of understanding. So mistake is they know what is the right thing, but they just happen to say it wrong in the moment. We do that. We do that in our native language. I probably did that a couple times today. It's like when you text somebody and autocorrect makes it the wrong, like, that's not the right word. An error is they really think it is the right way. And so there's a lack of understanding there. If that's what you're kind of getting at, Ernest, yeah. And that's when you need to review the rule and do the drilling. But if the student will immediately correct themselves, then you don't need to go over the whole rule again and drill everything.
Okay, Pamela, thank you so much. It's my turn to give my question. Yes. Like many students are very sensitive and they get feedback.
Right.
How can we manage this situation. If you say like your work, your writing assignment, or your pronunciation is very like not good, they will be
Yeah, so we would so we wouldn't say it like that. And I'm seeing Gulbata here saying the hamburger method. Yes, the PIP is also the hamburger, right? The bun is the positive, and then the meat is the improvement, and then the bun is the positive. So we don't want to say not good. We want to focus everything on really positive, encouraging language, like the sandwich, the hamburger, the PIP, whatever. The younger the student, the more fun you can have with that. Like you can, I had a teacher actually use a hamburger, a picture of a hamburger. And we talked about, oh, look at the what can we give for, you know, this and then this and then this. So you want to make it very encouraging. That's why I said, ask the students, oh, who can help? Not, oh, he was wrong. Who can give the correct answer? That's making it, they will be a little sensitive about that. It's not so positive, right? But if we say, can someone help? It's putting positive, and then maybe that other person can help in the future, right? Maybe they know something else. Or if you say, what kind of improvements would we like to see to make this even better? So you already say it's good, but we just want help making it a little bit improvement or constructive. Yes, constructive criticism. Yeah. Yeah, something constructive to to help make it great. It's good now, let's make it great. Or it's great now, let's make it excellent. We can all, and you know, again, model all that positive, that, you know, those positive words and that positive approach, so that you are you set the, you know, the students won't do they won't say negative things and mean things to each other usually if they're not seeing that from you. So if they understand that that's not acceptable, and the way that we do things is to be very nice, very positive, very encouraging, constructive, not negative, not insulting, and not putting anybody down, not saying someone is better or someone is worse, but we're all learning together and we're trying to help each other get even better.
Okay, one more question. While reviewing students' writing assignment, they like teachers sometimes like just cross the sentence if there are some like errors. Yeah, they don't explain it. Like they don't show like spelling mistake or like wrong vocabulary like this.
Yeah.
So how can we,
right. So circling it is better than crossing it out, because crossing it out can make them think that the word doesn't belong there. And sometimes there are words that are extra words, like, for example, I will to go to Bishkek, right? You don't need that first two. It doesn't belong, right? I will to go to Bishkek. Like that one, maybe you can cross it out. But if you cross out everything that's wrong, then they will think that all of those things don't belong. So if there is something that is incorrect, just circle it. And again, you can put that, the code words, the code letters for spelling or grammar. And again, you don't want to correct every single thing in the paper because it will overwhelm them. Choose the most important, the most relevant things that you are looking for and what is relevant to the lesson, and have that be what you are correcting and then drilling with them. We're not looking for perfection. It is one assignment that they are you know, looking to practice something. Yeah, so that's another way to bring positivity in, is if they see like so many problems on the first draft, then they were like, oh, I can't I can't correct all of these, but if it's just a few things that you've just gone over, then it's much more doable for them. Reading students reading, can we correct them to read with right? So we don't want, so I know there's different feelings about this, but the way I was trained and the way that I've kind of been taught to teach, and I really believe this is true, we're not really trained to read out loud. It's not really that helpful. Reading out loud, it just means that they can sound out the letters, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they understand what they are reading. And a lot of times they are more concerned about pronouncing things correctly as they're reading than they are the comprehension. And this is not natural language use. We don't do this in our first language. We don't read to read out loud. We read to understand what is written. So we want to train them to pick up a book, a newspaper, magazine, look at information on a poster, and to read it and understand it, not to speak it. So pronunciation practice is great, but not while reading text. And reading text should be about comprehension about what is written, not using that as pronunciation. What you can do for linking the pronunciation, the sound to how something is written is with listening exercises. So I went over that before, where you do some of those listening exercises like a song, and there's words that are missing, so they're listening and reading at the same time. So that's a good way, because I know English is really not phonetic. A lot of the words don't sound like you would expect them to. So it's better to have them link the sounds to that, and to I'm getting an echo from my computer and it's really distracting me. Sorry. I know what I want to say. I'm just getting distracted. I don't know what's wrong with my computer today. But anyway, yes. Okay. I'm glad I answered your question, Ernest. There are other ways to do pronunciation and understanding how written words are pronounced rather than just reading aloud. And yeah, different topics. Oh, maybe we can do pronunciation, teaching pronunciation.
Maybe, yeah.
Is that because we've gotten some questions about that now? Okay. That might be a good one. How to drill pronunciation? What are the kind of rules to keep in mind? Okay, why don't we do that? So we'll have this lead into that, and then I'll answer all those questions that I was distracted at the end. But thank you everybody for your questions and your feedback in here. So yes, feedback is always great for me too. It goes all the way. It goes to the students, to you guys, to me, to so yeah. All right.
Pamela, thank you very much. Dear teachers and students, thank you for your participation. So I think we have already chosen the topic for the next week, yeah? Teaching pronunciation.
Teaching pronunciation and reviewing pronunciation rules. Yeah, good.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
It was very interesting. Have a good night, Pamela. See you next week.
Yes, see you.
Оразаңыздар қабыл болсын. Жақсы тұрыңыздар.